Self. Well, it was a 40-yard volley taken straight.
If you think I'll cross and take my mans out, just kill yourself. In the trenches, 40 on my hip, I had to fix my...
Finna start streaming more on Kick, so follow our Kick Effortless Twins 23 in the description. Let's get it.
Oh, you know what upsets me? How people act like Zidane was this natural talent who had it so easy, you know? They act like he came out of the womb wearing a Juventus shirt when really, he was already 25 when he first stepped foot in Italy. That's 8 seasons and 265 matches, but still, if you ask most football fans, they know nothing about it. If you're lucky, you'll get the same old story about how 1 year before his move to Turin, Kenny Dalglish had asked the owner of Blackburn to sign Zidane, only for him to reply, "Why do you want to sign Zidane when we have Team Sherwood?" And that's exactly where the problem lies. As one newspaper put it, though the world has now decided that he is unanimously great, Zidane was a hard code to decipher at first, as all one-of-a-kind footballers are.
Appreciate that, bro.
Zidane was weird. Forget the untrained eye. Even the greatest talent scouts in the world could
Wait,
not see
whoa,
past
hold on,
I can't get him that far.
No. What he just do though?
weird. Forget the untrained eye. Even the greatest talent scouts.
That was a pass?
That was a shot, wasn't it?
No.
Go back.
He hit it with his ball hand in the back.
Forget the untrained eye. Even the greatest talent scouts in the
that's
world.
what the kick. Wait, what?
The pass was insane, and the kick was
Could
even
not see past what
crazier.
they
That
claimed
was a dead
was
attempt.
a lanky, sluggish midfielder with no personality or grit. Even Arsene Wenger, the same man who spotted some French kids struggling in Italy and turned him into the deadliest striker the Premier League had ever seen, even he turned down Zidane when he was back at Monaco. In fact,
Smoking a cig?
for a long time, there were only a few people who seemed to truly realize the potential he had. You see, after France won the Euro 2000, most players just went about celebrating any way they could. But Zidane, the player of the tournament, the one who had carried them to glory, he drove down to Marseille because before he even went on holiday, he wanted to hug his mom. As a member of the French staff once said, Zidane is the superstar who could be your next-door neighbor. In fact, his quiet, withdrawn, almost timid personality was one of the things that made his talent so difficult to spot. While most all-time greats seem to be these larger-than-life personalities, Zidane...
Oh, I was like, what the delay?
Spot.
I gotta put on these songs.
Okay, bro.
I'm gonna know
No. Look at this. Look out this
While
scene.
most
Who is that?
all-time
Who is
greats
that?
seem to
That's
be
not
the-
Mary.
Is that him holding Dan as a baby?
No, stop. That gotta be Maradona Jr. Don't play like
Bro,
that.
don't have me.
Don't play.
Reactor beat on who was on.
Zidane just wanted a hug from his mom. But that wasn't the point. What I meant to tell you was that while he was down there, he got the news that a man named Robert Centenaire was in the hospital struggling for his life, and Zidane did not even think twice. He postponed his holiday and kept him company for what were the last few days of his life. But why was he so important to him? Well, back when Zidane was still Yazid, because believe it or not, he didn't like his first name when he was a kid, Centenaire was the first person to scout Yazid, and even if the best he could do was take him to a tiny local club, Septem de Vallon, it meant a lot to him. As he would say, he did everything for me. He'd drive me to training. He would even give me money so that I could buy food on the weekends. He was like a father to me. And it was even thanks to Centenaire that Yazid met maybe the only man who would have an even bigger impact on his career. Monsieur Varraud. Only about a year after the two met, Centenaire convinced Yazid to take part in a tournament organized by IS Khan, where schoolboys teamed up in hopes of getting scouted. But unfortunately for Yazid, he was benched. But just as it seemed he would not even get a chance to shine, the boy who was playing his position broke his wrist and was taken to the hospital. So Yazid took over his role and put down an immense performance. Only there was no one there to watch him. The scout on duty put down an immense performance. Only there was no one there to watch him. The scout on duty that day was the famous Monsieur Varraud, and unfortunately for Yazid, he had offered to drive the injured kid to a clinic, so he never saw him. In fact, it took 2 years and 3 months for the two to cross paths again. And how did that happen? Well, Monsieur Varraud was in the region to watch the trial for an interleague tournament, but then the player he was supposed to watch was benched, so he wandered around the premises until he spotted none other than the father of the boy that he had driven to the hospital years earlier. So the two got to talking while watching the kids play, until one stood out so much to Varraud that he asked, "Who is number 13? And the man told him, "That's the kid who replaced my son when you helped us. Don't you remember him? His name is Yazid." By the end of that match, even though Yazid was not even picked by the organizers of the trial, Monsieur Varraud was convinced he had spotted the next French great. As he said, he had hands where his feet were supposed to be. Just imagine if they had never crossed paths again.
Wait,
See,
his
bro.
hands where
I
his
chose
feet
St.
supposed to
George's
be?
University
bro.
School
You
of
telling me he
Medicine
got full
because
control
at
of
the
that
time
shit
that
with
I
his
wanted to
feet?
go
No,
into
for real.
medicine,
Show us his highlights.
they were the only university that was willing to give.
For the military, pretty much raising him alongside his two other kids. And let me tell you, as quiet as he was, that would be no easy task because, as we all know by now, Yazid had a temper. If anyone ever dared mock his family or his origins in the ghetto, Yazid would not talk back. He would hit back. And indeed,
looked like
it
he-
wasn't long before he was sent off for
Bro
punishment.
look like the
Bro, why he
he look like
crashing
an
out?
American bully.
No, for
He
real.
like-
Like crashing out and shit.
He
Like,
look like he should play Shark Boy for real.
like you okay with that?
Punching a player, but thankfully, again, he had someone by his side. As Jean-Claude told him, this is the curse of the gifted player. You will have to learn to ignore their words, or you will spend the rest of your life on the sidelines watching others play. If you need to let off some steam, just scrub the locker rooms or something. I don't know. That last part was supposed to be just a bunch of empty words, but Yazid took them literally. The next day, after everyone left, they found him there with a bucket and a mop. As one of the coaches would say, Yazid was an example. He barely spoke, he always listened, and then he acted. However, Yazid was far from making it. When he got called up for the French under-17s, they even mixed up his name, addressing the latter to Sinkadri Zidane. That's how irrelevant he was back then. In fact, it would have probably taken him ages before he made it to the first team, had it not been for Monsieur Varraud yet again. As the senior team manager would tell the story, one day Varraud came, asked me to come see this kid training in the pitch next to ours. I kept telling him that I was tired, that I needed to go home, that I'd see him another time, but he insisted so much that even though I didn't want to, I gave it a look, and for 25 minutes, I could not take my eyes off of him. I was mesmerized. As I stood there, a board member walked by and said, "You're looking at that under 18, huh? He seems really good." What I didn't realize was that Yazid was still only 16. From that day onwards, Yazid began training with the first team, and only a few months later...
They quoted Ruby when I was in
Stop, boy.
when I was in high school. That's what
Frank.
happened.
I crushed Ruby Rose art run. I crushed Ruby Rose Subway before that thing. Yes. Frank. Way before that shit. The hell?
I don't like how they leaked that quote.
he got his debut. In fact, when he got handed 5,000 euros of prize money for his first appearance, as he said it himself, it was 5 or 6 times more money than I had in my account, so I thought, this time, I'm gonna buy myself something nice. I went to the Levi's store and got a new pair of pants. The rest, I sent to my mom. Regardless, that was the day I realized that I could go pro. And so, even when the board came in his way and pretty much banned the coach from playing him, calling Yazid a dancer, claiming that a team who was fighting to stay up could not be putting the club's fate in the hands of some kid, even saying that they weren't spending a fortune on wages just for the more experienced players to stay on the bench, even then, Yazid didn't budge. Every day from then on, he stayed behind in training, practicing his touch against the wall, and after a season without playing a single minute, they finally recognized his dedication, caved in, and let him play. And as Ibrahimovic would go on to say, when Zidane stepped onto the pitch, the 10 other guys suddenly got better. It is that simple. It was magic. And that was exactly what happened. That year, Yazid finally became Zidane, and not only did Khan play the greatest league campaign in their history, but he was easily the protagonist. He even went as far as making sure that the only goal he scored, the first of his career, was named the goal of the year. A goal so impressive for a kid his age that the president of the club even gave him a red Renault Clio as a reward, since after all, at that point, Zidane still didn't even have his own car. By the end, though it had been 44 years...
You telling me he got a car for a goal?
Bro, yes, I'm scoring 100 goals if you give me cars and shit.
I'm doing bicycle kicks and all
I'm doing
that.
everything. I'm telling someone to freaking throw me up in the air and then I'm going to do a bicycle kick. Like, we gonna do some crazy shit. He said
everything.
He said lag.
Stop. Ain't no lag. Stop.
Wait.
It's your Wi-Fi.
Oh, he said lag for a little.
Okay. Just laugh for a little. Okay. All right. We good.
Since Zidane had last managed to even place in the league's top 10, suddenly they were in 4th place and had qualified for the UEFA Cup. And as you might imagine, this attracted a lot of attention, especially from Marseille, who not only was Zidane's childhood club, but had also just made it to the final of the Champions League. There was only one problem. At that point, Zidane was out on mandatory military service, and though they would still allow him to travel back and forth so he could play for his team, it wouldn't be until New Year's before he got discharged, so Marseille decided to wait it out. But unfortunately, by then, with Zidane having to split his time between the army and the club, Kahn's performances dropped massively, being knocked out in the second round of the UEFA Cup and sitting all the way down below the relegation line. Suddenly, Zidane didn't look as appealing as before, so they began working out a deal where they would send Alen Boksic on loan to Kahn so they could get Zidane for cheaper. But in the middle of it all, Lyon got upset as they had just lost on a chance to sign Boksic, being outbid precisely by Marseille, only for them to send him on loan immediately after signing him, which at the time was illegal. And just as they decided whether or not to sue them, Boksic just happened to debut precisely as Kahn faced Lyon and ended up getting their keeper sent off and costing them points, which sent them over the edge, leading them to take on the lawsuit, winning it, and getting all those deals cancelled. Meaning that by the end of the year, with Zidane struggling to get back in form, watching his own team get relegated and even picking up an injury, Marseille went back on their word and refused to sign him. Only a year after tasting glory for the first time, Zidane was back to being a nobody. But that's exactly when a miracle happened.
Tom, as you know, first
quick
leads
as shit though, bro. He was just getting the car and shit from the club. Damn, bro. So there was a whole team alone. He would make the whole team move in the better, bro. Yeah, bro. He's that bad. He definitely he just like me when I step on.
Quit.
Right.
Destroy him better.
Kahn struggling financially, Bordeaux's entourage met with them in an attempt to poach 2 of their players, Jean-François Daniel and Eric Guéry. But once they were months away from winning the Champions League, but first of all, at least he was still at the top tier, and secondly, well, waiting for him in that locker room were 2 guys who would conquer the world alongside him. I'm talking about Christophe Dugarry and Vicente Lizarazu. The moment those 3 began joining forces, Zidane hit a whole new level. As one of the coaches at the club said, when he arrived, we saw an introvert, a kid who doubted himself, but with every single one of us around him, his confidence grew every day. We gave him the self-belief he needed to reach his potential. And Zidane, he knew this too. As he would one day say, Bordeaux was precisely what I needed in that moment, not just in football terms, but in my life. There, one way or another, I became a man. And by the end of the season, he had done it again. Bordeaux were somehow 4th in the league and had qualified for the UEFA Cup. Even more impressive, after insisting all year that he was not an attacking midfielder but actually a facilitator, Zidane was Bordeaux's top scorer with 10 league goals. In the next year, though he would have his first moment of madness punching Desailly in the face midway through a match, then he scored past Oliver Kahn and led Bordeaux to revalidate their 4th place finish, meaning that by August, everyone had forgotten his mistake. Not only was Zidane handed the league's Young Player of the Year award, but he was called up to the French national team for the very first time, and he made sure to make it as memorable as possible. You see, back then, France had not even made it to the previous World Cup, which was especially concerning, given that they were hosting the next one. And since they did not want to get embarrassed in their own turf, Aimé Jacquet had been handed the task of building a new side out of the wreckage of the previous squad. So that day, with Djorkaeff out of the squad, he asked Zidane if he was ready for his debut, and in his usually overly humble style, he told him that Corentin Martins was much better prepared for the match, so Jacquet left him on the bench. There was only a little problem. 60 minutes in, they were losing 2-0 to the Czech Republic. So, in a desperate attempt to try to keep France's pride untouched, Jacquet took the risk of sending Zidane in for Martins, and the result was simple. With 5 minutes to go, Zidane took the ball, made it past 1, then 2, and smacked it in from 30 yards out. As everyone expected the kid to lose his mind celebrating, he immediately hurried back to the center of the pitch, because his mission wasn't over. That only came 2 minutes later when he leveled the match with a bullet header.
Bro,
As
okay,
the
this
cameras
nigga.
cut
What just
to the
happened?
bench, You could
I just
see
see
when
some-
he leveled
Bro,
the
this
match
nigga flew in
with
the
a
air,
bullet
got his
header.
hair.
As the
Bro, see,
cameras
somebody
cut to
was
the
in the
bench,
air,
you
that's
could see
it.
it in their faces.
As soon as he got
We
in.
found our man.
This thing is
Regardless,
different.
with Zidane struggling with recurring injuries the next season
What?
after a disappointing exit in the second round of the UEFA Cup, Bordeaux disappointed even further by dropping down to 7th place in the table. But as it seemed they would be out of the European competitions, they were handed a lifeline as the UEFA took over the Intertoto Cup and offered the winner a place in the UEFA Cup. In fact, it was right
Damn,
around
that
that
shit.
moment that
That
Newcastle
stadium
were
big as
supposedly
shit.
offered
Real
the
Madrid?
chance to sign Zidane for only 1.2 million pounds. But as we all know, they did not take it, and quickly, that proved to be a gigantic mistake. In the first match of the Intertoto, Zidane scored a stunner only 6 minutes in. Then 8 minutes after that, he got an incredible assist. And in the second half, not only did he start a counter-attack that led to their 4th goal, but scored the 5th through some real Zidane magic. And from there on out, he kept going. 3 free kicks scored over the next 3 matches. But once they were in the final, Zidane added a little bit of his usual flair, getting a 3-match ban for hitting another player with an elbow to the chin.
Boy,
don't crash out.
Chin to the
Winning
chin
the
is
whole
crazy.
thing, and ironically, it was right around that time that Cantona
I
was
ain't gonna lie,
also
like
still-
You gotta go upwards like this.
For real.
What the
But
fuck?
Zidane just looked naturally mad. Am I tripping?
Bro, I
He
ain't
just
gonna
always
cap,
looked
bro.
naturally
Yes, sir.
mad.
He's banned
No
for
cap.
Even when he was
for
old.
kicking a fan.
What?
Zidane made
Oh
sure
yeah,
to take
oh
advantage
yeah,
of
that's what we
that.
seen. That's what we seen on that one Cantani dude. Remember that one nigga that was crashing
I
out?
thought that was Zidane that did that.
No. That's the Eric Cantana dude,
I
bro.
was
He
like,
crashed out.
what?
He kicked the fan, bro. I think that's what. Let me
Did
go
he
back.
get banned?
And ironically, it was right around that time that Cantona was also serving his ban for kicking a fan. And Zidane made sure to take advantage of his absence to completely cement his position as the new star of the French national team. Not just assisting the
fast
opener
boy.
in their decisive qualifier against Agi's Romania, but then scoring a stunner to secure their
What? He
place at
kicked
the
the stuff out of.
Euros.
Oh man, he
If you
couldn't
think
even
that
keep
was a
his
beautiful
balance.
goal, just hear me out. Once he had served his ban, the next round was against Real Betis. And not only did he score the winning goal, but the goal itself, well, it was a 40-yard volley taken straight from the kick. If there was a Puskas award back then, he'd probably have won
Never
it.
call him in?
But still, it was nothing next to a match. So, look, that year, AC Milan somehow ended up in the UEFA Cup, which was especially impressive because they had been to the final of the Champions League in every single one of the previous 3 seasons, or if you prefer, they had been in 5 out of the previous 7 finals. They were basically undefeatable. You could argue they were the scariest team since Di Stefano's Real Madrid, and to make things worse for Bordeaux, they lost the first leg 2-0. As one newspaper wrote, Bordeaux in the UEFA Cup was just a palate cleanser to be dispatched before AC Milan returned to the high table to swill champagne around their gums again. In fact, Di Stefano's Real Madrid 44 years earlier had been the last team to beat them by 3 goals or more in the Champions League. There was no hope that Bordeaux would make a comeback, but then, well, their players noticed that the Italians were far too relaxed during warm-up, so they went in with everything they had, and 14 minutes in, they were in front. Then, with every passing minute, it became more and more obvious that Zidane was the best player on the pitch, and by the hour mark, with a bit of help from the referee, he assisted Dugarry to tie the match. And only 6 minutes later, he nutmegged Desailly, then glided across the pitch and made the impossible possible. 3-0 for Bordeaux, with the entire world watching. And once Zidane assisted Dugarry yet again in the very
Come
next
here, that
match,
was a Ronaldo
pretty
chop.
much putting them in the final,
Or
I'm
J-Dot
guessing
chop.
Lady Luck was done with them, since from there on out, everything went wrong. Both Zidane and Dugarry missed the first leg of the final through suspension, and even once they made it back, firstly Zarazu went out injured, and then they conceded through a deflection. The final result was a 5-1 defeat on aggregate, but regardless, at 25 years of age, that run had finally been enough to convince the country of how great Zidane was, and so, even after getting involved in a car crash that left him seriously bruised from head to toe,
How long has this
struggling
guy
to
had a
get
bald
back to
head in the
fitness.
He was just balding, Ray. He just started balding.
Damn, nigga, wait.
Before he
no.
got banned, he started balding.
I swear he was balding before that, bro. I don't know. I swear I keep seeing that shit. I think he must be playing the same highlights or something.
Jacquet did not even think twice. The league's new player of the year had to be at the Euros, and even through all of that, Zidane still got them within inches of getting to the final. But no matter what, once the market opened, Newcastle decided
I
against
know,
signing
I
him
just
because
seen
they thought
Woody
he
get
was
dunked on.
overrated, while
Look
let's
at
say
this,
Sir
he's
Alex
fucking up.
made the same poor judgment call because he didn't want to upset Cantona by signing another Frenchman. Regardless, Juventus, they believed he was the key to stop Milan's dominance, so they decided to risk it. And once he signed the papers, you know we called first Madame Elino. 2 years later, he was the FIFA World Player of the Year and had taken Juventus to 2 Serie A titles and 2 Champions League finals. But I guess he was too slow, huh?
Did he ever win one though?
Wait, did he? What about the Real Madrid part?
Did he ever win one?
I don't know. I feel like he probably did in Real Madrid. They didn't even mention nothing about Real Madrid.
Heard you one time to the mob. Heard that you trying to get involved with it. Heard that you trying to come by.